listening to Ridecast, the podcast of the Widow Sons Ridings chapter. The opinions expressed in this episode do not represent those of the Widow Sons Masonic Biker Association UK and Ireland. You can find us on Facebook at Widow Sons-Ridings chapter, on Instagram at Widow Sons_Ridings chapter. Our website is ridings.wsmba.uk. You can look us up on YouTube by searching for the Ridecast channel. And if you want to contact us directly, email us on ridecast@hotmail.com. Right, that's the housekeeping taken care of. Kickstands up, on with the show. Hello, and welcome to Ridecast. And we're starting a new season, new year, new season. Season 3 now, guys. Did you think we'd make it to season 3?
I was surprised we've been chucked off from season 1.
So we're on season 3, episode 1. This is Yaka, your host, and my co-hosts are Gremlin.
Hello.
Is that it? Okay, and also Pigpen. Hello, Pigpen.
Hello there, how are we doing?
Yeah, good. All raring to go with a new episode. So, guys, I guess we should crack on with the show. We've got a little bit of a news update to do in segment 1. Segment 2, we've got an awesome deep dive into the superstar stuntman, Daredevil, Eddie Kidd. So I'm looking forward to chatting about Eddie Kidd with you guys. And then segment 3, we've got a few emails to answer. Right, okay, what have we got to do with the news update then? Anyone want to start on the news update?
Well, it's always about me, so let's go. I got my trike.
Sickle.
Yes, yeah. When was that?
3 weeks ago. 3 weeks ago.
Blimey.
Yeah. It was absolutely chucking it down with rain, and suddenly, the time I was collecting it, the rain stopped. The clouds parted. The blue sky and the sun was shining on the righteous as normal.
And you had quite a few guys there as well, didn't you? I didn't make it because I had a bit of fiasco. First of all, for some reason, my battery was flat on the bike, despite me charging it the night before. I think my trickle charge has gone a bit dodgy. So anyway, couldn't start the bike. And then I thought, right, well, I'll go in the car. I'll meet them at Squire's in the car. I ended up checking my oil on my car and shutting my keys inside my bonnet and locking the keys under the bonnet. So that took me about an hour to get them out. That was a bit of a nightmare. I had a bit of a sweat on trying to use tire levers to open my bonnet to get my keys out. But anyway, I ended up going straight to Squire. So I didn't see you guys at Harley Davidson. But the good news is I managed to take a little bit of video footage on my, what do you call it? My gimp boy camera? My gimbal camera.
Yeah, gimp boy camera.
Good job you weren't there to witness it, because it was pretty bad was the start of the riding.
Really? Why? What happened? You all seemed to arrive in different groups. It was very odd.
Oh, this was as soon as I sat on the trike, started it going, I almost crashed. Weight distribution is very strange. As I have lost my right leg, I seem to be veering towards the left. I kept wanting to put my left foot down, thinking I was still on a motorbike. And what they suggested was that I get off it, give them the keys and sell it. No, what they actually said was there was a little industrial unit like next door to Leeds Harley Davidson. Said, right, just go in there and practice your turning. There's nobody there. There's no vehicles there. Just practice going around. And I did for about 10 minutes, which certainly made it easier, but it is very different to riding a conventional motorbike as being on a trike. You really work your arms. You really push the handlebars left and right. Yeah,
there's no leaning it into corners. You have to physically manhandle it around corners, don't you?
Pigpen was behind me on the A64 going towards the red bus. I think it was somewhere near there. And there's like a right-hand bend. And I was merrily going along, and I was leaning a bit to the right, and I thought, oh, shit, I am not going to make this. And I really had to suddenly, and you saw the bike twitch, didn't you, to the right? Yeah.
Oh, here we go.
But it's just a case of getting used to it. You know, right hand, for some reason, right-hand corners are very straight. Mind you, going around corners on a normal bike was very bad before, wasn't
it? You weren't good, were you?
So Buzz has made a cage that goes around the foot plate to get my foot in there. So because I wouldn't know if it bounced off, you know, with the motion. So that's absolutely brilliant.
It was a bit of a tight fit, as I recall, but you've had, since had it adjusted.
Well, he has adjusted it slightly, but needs to get some longer bolts to go in there, or some more spaces and longer bolts just to open it, just to take it out a couple of centimeters. So that'll be fine. And also he's going to put a little piece of metal work at the back to stop my foot sliding out of the back. And then because of the brake adaptations, standard Harley mirrors didn't go through it because they're metric and Harleys are imperial.
Right.
So he managed to get me some mirrors put on today, and they are
good.
like skeleton hands holding a mirror.
Awesome. Actually, I think I'm sure Kenny Alien has got something similar with like skeleton hands coming up holding his mirrors. Yeah.
So I'm really happy.
Did you find yourself using separate braking, or are you pulling both brake levers, or what are you doing?
Pulling both brake levers at once.
Are you?
Yeah, I've just got to get used to that sort of, because I've obviously got no foot brake. Actually, I do have a foot brake on the left-hand side. You put that down and that is like a handbrake in a car now. So I've got to keep remember to take that off before I set off. I couldn't work out why it wouldn't go into reverse, and it's because the foot brake was on. Right. So there are some, it's just taking time to ride it and get used to it.
Since you picked the bike up, how many miles do you think you've done on it? Have you been out on it much, or is it still
we went from Leeds Harley Davidson all the way to Squires and home, so that was about 40 miles that day, 30 odd miles. And then today I've been to near Squires and back, so another 20-30 miles.
Okay, early days then. Early days. Give it a couple of 100 miles.
That's on road work he's done. He's ploughed 15 fields with the Harley.
He's got a few ton of spuds
out of the field. Many hours of field work with the tractor.
As I say, I'm watching. It's like having a ruddy car, because you've got two rear fenders and all of that.
It's a lot of surface area, isn't it? A lot of surface area to clean. Yeah.
But you know what? It looks nice, and I like it, and it's got me out there.
It's fantastic. But tell me this: how come there were 3 bikes turned up from the A1 side, and then 5 minutes later, about 7 or 8 more guys with you leading them turned up from the railway bridge side? And I'm thinking they're all coming in different groups. Right. They all set off together, and then half an hour after that, Sack turned up with a couple more.
We did set off together, but obviously nobody was doing any dropping off, so we got to roundabouts or wherever, and Bobby was leading, and Bobby just took us straight up the A64 to Tadcaster, and that way. Others, I think it must have peeled them off towards the A63 down to Squires that way, and 3 went down the A1. And I think Raspberry was holding them up on his 125, wasn't they?
Yeah, so I was stood there with Tess, and I can't remember, there was somebody else with me there. Anyway, I filmed you all coming in, and it was great to see you leading that group of 7 or 8 bikes, riding into Squires. It was quite emotional.
Ploughing the field as I went through.
Yeah, dragging a trailer full of turnips.
Yeah, but you know what was interesting is when we left, we had a photograph outside, and how many of us were there? And it was the Satan Slaves meeting at the same time, wasn't it?
There was, yeah. They had a chat with you though, didn't they? Because on the way out, I'd said, our president is it's his first day back on the road today after his accident, and they were like giving it the whole, well done, mate, good to see you back on the bike.
Very courteous. It was nice.
Satan Slaves were very good towards you, aren't they? Over it, and
they were dead friendly. They're nice guys. They're nice guys.
Big shout out to them. They're good lads.
Yeah. Hello to the Satan Slaves Yorkshire. So we had a bite to eat inside, didn't we? I was quite surprised at actually how many of us were in there, but we all had a old Cornish nasty, cup of tea, and
Cassio went for the full burger, and
he always has a full English breakfast or something big, doesn't he?
Yeah. Can I just say how nice it was to see Howard there, to see H there, to see Cassio there, and they'd ridden some miles to come over, Sack and Trip, and there were obviously the ones that couldn't make it.
Yeah,
it was the week after.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Not saying any names, Badger.
Yeah, Badger. Yeah.
Anyway, it started getting dark fairly early, so we all jumped back on the bikes and away we went. But I've got some real good footage, and I will be overlaying the video footage on the video episode. So,
and I'd like to thank both Elton and Pigpen for escorting me home, because we went to the petrol station, filled up. God, it takes some fuel, does that? Unless fuel's gone up so much since I rode a bike, it took a lot in there. It's about nearly 30 quid.
Yeah.
There's a hole in my tank. Or were you siphoning off at the same time, Pigpen, straight through to your tank?
Well, no, tractors have a bigger tank, don't they? Of course they do.
Does it fill up on diesel, mate, or
red diesel?
So that was brilliant. Good news. Great to get see Gremlin back out on the road with us again. What else have we got in the way of news, guys?
Well, what we are going to be doing, and I need to get it organised hopefully this week, is do we know what the forecast is like next weekend? Because it would be very nice for us to be able to go to Disability Action Yorkshire and present the cheque which we were supposed to be doing before about November time, but I think it was snowing that weekend, and get to meet the residents there because they're really excited about meeting us all.
Well, the weather is definitely improving.
Okay.
I would say it's still maybe a little cold for long rides. Not that where you're talking about is that far away, but did you obviously you had a ride over to near Squires today, didn't you? Showing an helmet direction.
There were quite a few out riding. It was nice actually. Once I scraped the ice off, it was actually quite nice. The roads were fine.
I rode to Strawberry Fields and I met Jag there and one of our new candidates, Alan. And it was all right actually. It was a little cool once you get up to speed, but
did all three of you go on your bikes?
Jag was in his car. He doesn't like getting he don't want to get his bike dirty. I don't blame him. He lives out in the sticks and there really are tractors all over the road there. So I don't blame him. But so the weather is improving. Hopefully it'll be nice next weekend. And I think is it the weekend after we've got the AGM?
Yeah.
So they'll probably, that's at Squires as usual. So I would imagine a few of us will be going on the bikes for that, won't we?
Like we never do.
So how do you feel being halfway through your tenure as president?
Well, I haven't had a lot to do this year, really, or last year, did I?
Well,
1 week into it,
you ran the chapter from your hospital bed. Let's just say that's all you could do at the time.
Looking forward to it. Well, I've got to be voted in first. Like, there might be people saying, do you know what? We've had enough of Spacky. Get rid of him.
Well, me and Pigpen didn't want to say anything, but
you're already blackballed.
it actually would be nice to do a full year riding out.
We have a VP who did step in and step up to the plate last year when you were.
Yeah.
He did a very good job as well. Yeah.
Down and did his things he had to do. So Cass did what he had to do for when he did it. So that was good.
Yeah. Poor old Cassie had to go to the National AGM all on his lonesome, didn't he?
He did.
Yeah.
Down in Derbyshire. Speaking of which, that'll be coming up again soon as well. Will you be going to that? Will you be going to that one this year, Gremlin?
Yep. So, but I'm not having an MOT the day before. That proved a little dangerous last year. So we have obviously the Ridings chapter AGM on Saturday the 18th.
Yeah.
And we will then be having the Widow Sons National AGM on Saturday the 25th. Myself, Pigpen and Cassio are down to go. We've paid our funds and it'll be interesting to see what it's all about as I missed it last year.
Good. Okay, any other updates?
Well, I think Pigpen can tell us we've got about 75 new candidates. I must speak to the President Crowley about it and just say, you take an afternoon off and there's so many candidates.
We've had a few register. I think it's probably a good idea if we make it a requisite that you have to own a motorcycle.
I was going to say it would be nice if they had motorbikes, wouldn't it?
No, we're getting there. No, there's one lad hasn't got one, but he's getting one this month.
Alan bought one yesterday.
He's upscaled from a Lex Moto 125 to a pre-war Kawasaki 500. So yeah,
pre-war. It's a 96. It's an old 1996. You know, it's all right though. It's all there. It's got brand new tyres on it.
Well, what more can you say?
Right, serious point here. Has he got his walking stick holders on it? Has he had those adapted?
His rocket launchers, you mean, on the back of the bike? Yeah, they're on the back, zip tied.
Do you know what? I've heard that the Russians are targeting his bike because they think it's a mobile scud unit.
It does look like a rocket launcher. It looks like something out of a James Bond movie. No, bless him. He's got himself a bike. And thanks to Frank for lending him the 125, but he's got a big bike now. And looking forward to getting out for rides with him when the weather improves.
Yep, and to the other candidates without bikes, buy one.
And I believe you've got something for us, Pigpen.
Yeah, we have got 2 candidates for this year's Widow Sons Scotland branding.
Bloody hell, they're doing them every 6 months now, aren't they? These brandings.
This will be the only one this year.
Yeah, it's back to yearly, and they have reduced the numbers. So there's 75 brandees now maximum.
Which includes 20 Widow Sons Scotland.
Right. So it's only 55 from the rest of the UK?
Rest of the country, yeah.
Wow.
It's a bit of a bun fight for how many you get, but
So tell me who's going from our chapter?
We have got Cappy and Brasso.
Yeah.
Excellent. Excellent.
We have got other members to do, but they can't make it this year. So,
yeah.
What a shame. Anyone going as helpers?
Well, there's 4 helpers have put their names forward, which was Bandito, Inky, Pigpen, and Moa.
Right. I know all 4 of you were confirmed, or
yes.
You are, right?
No, they said we can have 4 helpers.
Yeah, they haven't put a number on helpers. It was just the actual
brandies. Right.
Thank you. It was getting a bit large and maybe a bit. It was losing its.
I know exactly what you mean. Yeah.
With a big.
You end up getting 200 people there. It gets a bit out of hand, doesn't it?
Yeah. It took forever to get round, and it lost that sort of special feel. Whereas now it's back to being, you've got to get your name in, you've got to do it and get there.
Yeah.
I'll go this year. So that's another good bit. A couple more.
Well, I hope the weather's nice and mild for you. I don't really. I hope it's freezing.
Usually is, but
that's part of it. It's all part of it, guys. Yeah.
It'd be good. 2 more people getting the L-shaped patch on, which is great.
Yeah. More of them squares on our members, the better. It looks great in photographs when everyone's got the square patch.
Yeah.
And we're back into segment 2. And on this segment, we are going to do a deep dive on one of my favourite motorcycling personalities from when I was a kid. You might remember 5 or 6 episodes back, we did Evel Knievel. We did a deep dive on Evel Knievel. So we thought we'd bring it back to the UK. We'll get all Union Jack on the podcast, and we're going to talk about the fabulous Eddie Kidd.
Yeah.
So this is a deep dive on Eddie Kidd, and we've decided to divide this up between the 3 of us.
Yeah.
And Pigpen, you're going to get the ball rolling with his early years. So what can you tell us about Eddie Kidd when he was a kid? As a kid.
Well, yeah, Eddie Kidd, OBE, was born on Monday, the 22nd of June, 1959.
1959.
Same year as you, Gremlin.
I think that makes him 63 as we speak.
63, right.
He was the son of Eddie Sr. and Marjorie. And they had 2 siblings, which was Sarah Jane and Christina. And they were born in Islington, or where they were raised in Islington in London, before he moved to where he is now. Before that, after that, really, there isn't a great deal until he sort of gets to into his early years of high school. And the first sort of real interesting bit you find about him was at 12 years old, he had watched Evel Knievel.
Was that with Awful Knorful?
Yeah, Awful Knorful. And it inspired him to be a stunt rider.
Apparently, I read that his dad took him to the cinema to see a movie called Evel Knievel or Viva Knievel or something, and it had George Hamilton playing Evel Knievel. And apparently that was like absolutely blew his mind. And anyway, carry on.
Yeah, with the motorbike side, he just thought it was absolutely brilliant. So he came home, he gathered 11 of his friends up, got them to lay down in the middle of the road, set himself up a plank on a brake, and 12 years old, took his push bike and jumped over these kids. And
been there when I was about 8-9 years old, jumping me drifter. Yeah, all of us have.
That was of his start.
We tried that now with you, Pigpen, on my trike.
You just run him over, wouldn't you? You just run him over. Do you know what? The funny thing is me and Gremlin were doing that on our grifters and boxers, whereas Pigpen was actually doing it on a real motorcycle.
What did I have? An XR125S Honda. Anyway, moving on. So at 15 years old, he got his first motorbike for the road and using. And then at 16, he did his first sort of televised jump. And that was over 13 double-decker buses.
Yes, I've got that in my list. That was in 1976.
Yeah.
And that was a funny one. And that's on YouTube. I suggest you look this one up on YouTube. What happens in this one, Pigpen? It's quite funny, isn't it?
Yeah. Do you know the team who he was with?
No, go on.
It was with Cyclo-Manic's team, who he was part of. And the bike he was on was a 1976 CCM 500.
Right. Okay. So they were like a little like stunt riding team, were they, that did events and shows and things?
Like a team that used to go around doing it, and I think that got him actually. He got the junior world champion
for jumps. He jumped so many buses or whatever. Right. Okay.
Because his dad and his uncle, there was a golf course at the end of where the jump was, and the golf course were kicking off, saying that he was going to ride onto the greens, and couldn't happen. And they were trying to stop it. So they said, no, we'll put something in place so it doesn't happen. So they had his dad and his uncle at the end of the ramp with a big sheet. The idea was if he got to that point, they'd catch the bike and him in the sheet and stop it. But he overcooked the jump a bit and was heading towards them at a large pace. So
he must have been doing about 60 or 70 mile an hour straight at him.
So he laid the bike on its side, which instantly the front wheel took his dad out and the back wheel took his uncle out, and he broke his dad's leg.
Yeah, it's pretty bad. I mean, he literally cleans them up. They're doing cartwheels in the air, aren't they? It's really quite bad.
He ended up in a ditch, but he was fine, and it got him his big break and his big start, and that was.
But the crazy thing is, he landed the jump, didn't he? If he'd have had more room to decelerate, it would have been the perfect jump.
It was upright. It was just he laid it down because it was like
nowhere to go.
Not going to stop this, so he laid it on its side on the grass to stop it. So that was where his big start was.
Do you want me to move on? Because I've got some more of his jump highlights here.
Yeah, carry on from there.
Okay, so that was, as Pigpen has said, that was his first televised jump where he got a bit of a name for himself. But he was traveling with that crew. They were doing shows all over the country, weren't they? So he was picking up experience, doing small jumps. But that was the first real big jump. That was 13 double deckers.
I've eaten 4 in one go.
Yeah. Whatever happened to double deckers? Are they still going now?
I don't know.
Anyway, 1977. So he's now 18 years old, and this was another big jump. This was 22 cars, and he did that at Longleat, Longleat House.
Yeah.
So that was 22 cars. Again, another good landing. April the 8th, 1978 was the next major jump for him. This is where he jumped 14 double-decker buses. And this is where he actually took the record from Evel Knievel. So at 18 years old, he jumped 190 feet over 14 double-decker buses and became more successful than Evel Knievel. I mean, Evel Knievel was famous for crashing, whereas I think Eddie Kidd landed more successfully, didn't he?
Yeah.
And then a year later in 1979, there were 2 big jumps. Now, he had picked up a little bit of notoriety, and movie companies started getting in touch with him to perform motorcycle stunts on movies and do some stunt double work. Now, in 1979, there were 2 jumps he did in 79. One was for a film called Hanover Street, which was a Harrison Ford movie. So he stunt doubled for Harrison Ford. He did a 90 mile an hour, 120-foot jump over a railway cut-in, so quite high in the air. And that's at Shepton Mallet in Somerset. He had a dummy tied to his back on that one because he was supposed to be carrying a passenger. But he, again, successfully landed that one. So that's the film Hanover Street. And then in the same year, in 1979, he starred in his own movie called Riding High, which was actually released a year later in cinemas in 1980. But the jump he did there was, you might have seen this one, guys. It was an 80-foot jump over a broken railway bridge from one side of the bridge to the other, over the River Blackwater in Malden, Essex. And he again, successful land, bit of a dodgy landing. He landed heavily on the back wheel.
I said he was laid off the back of the bike when he landed.
He recovered it though. I think he injured his leg slightly, but he managed to slow down, turn around, and do a victory lap back to the bridge. And that was how the movie ended. Now, Riding High, the movie, is actually on Netflix. I watched it yesterday just to check.
And
well, as you can imagine, it's 1980s, British made, pretty shocking acting. But it's got a certain 80s charm about it, and he's very young. Obviously, he's, what will he be there? If it was at 79, he would have been 19. His first acting job, but it's lots of shots of him riding around on a motocross bike on a beach, basically. But it's good, and the jump, you can't deny the jump. It is an amazing jump. Right, what have I got now? Oh, yeah, I'm going to fast forward a little bit because I'm doing jump highlights here. So that was 1980. By the way, Linda Bellingham is in Riding High. Do you know who Linda Bellingham is?
Yes.
The Oxo mum?
Yep.
He had a bit of a thing with her. He had a relationship with her for a while, Linda Bellingham.
Yeah.
I believe she died recently, didn't she? R.I.P. Linda Bellingham. Yeah. Right, so as I said, I'm going to fast forward a little now to 1993. Two noteworthy events in 93. One was the Great Wall of China, where he jumped over the Great Wall of China. They set up a jump ramp and a landing ramp on either side of the wall. The actual distance of the jump wasn't massive, it wasn't a huge distance, but it was quite a drop. I think it was something like a 10-meter drop from the takeoff ramp to the landing ramp, and from the takeoff ramp you can't see the landing ramp, so it's a bit of a leap of faith, isn't it, to take a jump and you can't see where you're landing. But he landed that successfully, ended up in a big pile of cardboard boxes, but he kept the bike upright.
Any ideas on the make of bike, what it was?
I think at that point he was jumping on, is it CR500s?
Yeah, that'll be a Honda, was it?
Yes, that's right. Yeah, he's on the mighty Hondas there.
Mighty Honda.
Oh, don't tell me this is why he's famous for landing and Evel Knievel is famous for crashing, because his was on Harley Davidsons.
You can't land a brick, mate.
To be fair, Evel Knievel was jumping very, very big, solid, heavy Harleys. And Eddie Kidd had better equipment, didn't he? And I mean, even nowadays, you can't compare these guys with your Travis Pastranas and your Nitro Circus guys. They're jumping the length of football pitches nowadays, aren't they? Without any problem. It's a totally different game now. And one more thing in 1993, who has heard of the Daredevil duel?
Yeah.
Evel Knievel versus Eddie Kidd. That was a pay-per-view event. What happened was Robbie Knievel, the son of Evel Knievel, decided there was a money-making scheme. He challenged the British Daredevil, Eddie Kidd, to a duel, a jump duel. Eddie Kidd accepted, went over to America, and the rules were you had 3 jumps each. I don't believe they were actually jumping anything. It was just purely on distance alone, jump and land. So, obviously you had to land on 2 wheels and keep the bike upright. And what they did is they added up the combination of the 3 distances to declare a winner. And I'm happy to say Eddie Kidd stuffed the Americans. He beat Robbie Knievel by 6 feet. Yep. Now, it doesn't sound much, does it? But 6 feet is 6 feet.
All adds up, doesn't it?
And the funny thing is
five more than me.
Yeah, that's it. Before the jump, obviously there was a little bit of hype and it's a bit like a boxing match. They were both, trying to wind each other up. And I saw a clip of Eddie Kidd being interviewed by some journalists and TV people. And he said, and they were saying, do you really think you can beat the legend of Robbie Knievel? And he said, oh, well, I don't think I could. He was a bit of a cockney, wasn't he? I don't think I could beat his dad. His dad was a legend. He said, but Robbie, he's a big boy, isn't he? He's a big old boy. He weighs more than my motorbike. He says, we call him Chubby Knievel. Anyway, Robbie Knievel was wearing the full race leathers, the full one-piece Evel Knievel style race leathers. And good old Eddie Kidd was wearing a pair of jeans with leather chaps. And a bike jacket with studs all over it. But so that was a win for Great Britain there with Eddie Kidd on the duel. I've got a couple of other things to tell you about here as well, guys, because he had a couple of little side careers. Obviously, I've already mentioned the stunt double work, but there's a couple of other movies I want to mention. Obviously, I've already said about the Harrison Ford doubling for Harrison Ford in Hanover Street in 79, but he also doubled for Val Kilmer in Top Secret in 1984. Timothy Dalton in The Living Daylights, the Bond movie. He doubled for Timothy Dalton. That was in 87. I think we've talked about that stunt. Do you remember back in season 1, we talked about all the different movie motorcycles?
Yeah.
And there was a scene at the beginning of the movie where doesn't he jump off he's on one of those Kajiva elephants, and I'm not sure if it's the same movie. Anyway, so Timothy Dalton, Living Daylights, Roger Moore and Michael Caine in a movie called Bullseye in 1990. Anyone heard of that one?
No, but keep out of the black and in the red. You're getting out in this game for two in a bed.
Yeah. And finally, Pierce Brosnan in GoldenEye in 95. I think that was the one I was thinking of.
Yes. Yeah, that's when he went over the, yes.
In 1984, a computer game was released called Eddie Kidd Jump Challenge, and that was on the Acorn Electron, BBC Micro, Commodore 64, and the ZX Spectrum. And I remember that because I was a Spectrum kid back in '84. So that was the
Big
Eddie
Pen's
Kidd
on the Spectrum, from what I've heard.
Right, 1987. Did you guys know we did a bit of modelling?
Yes.
Right, so we did a bit of modelling, and I've got 3 commercials that he appeared in here. 2 of them I don't remember.
Pigpen took over them because they were for hair products.
Sunsilk, yeah, that was a hairspray, wasn't it?
No, it's shampoo.
Is it shampoo, is it? Right.
Yeah.
Vileda. Now, isn't that the mop? Isn't Vileda the mop? Super mop. And then the final one, everyone will remember this one, the Levi advert, the 501 advert.
Yeah.
And that was the one where he was, Eddie Kidd was coming in looking like Elvis sort of look like, into a nightclub. The doorman stops him because he's wearing jeans. And Eddie basically flashes the 501, the red 501 tab, and lets him in. What was the music playing? I think it was I Heard It Through the Grapevine.
Well, was it that one, or was that the one where that guy takes his kegs off and washes himself?
That was Nick Kamen, wasn't it, in the laundrette? I think that was a different song.
I think you're right about Heard It Through the Grapevine.
Yeah, I think the Nick Kamen one was Don't Know Much About History.
Could have been.
Anyway, so we did a bit of modelling there. The Levi 501 advert, everyone remembers that one. In 1978, early in his career, he got a recording contract. You know, people were jumping on the bandwagon. They knew he was popular. They said, let's cut a record here and get some records out. I'm sure someone will buy him. He actually released a full album, which was called Just for the Record in 1978. Several singles also. Listen to the names of these the titles of these singles: Motorbike Kid, Leave It to the Kid, in 78, Black Leather, Silver Chrome, and Heavy Metal in 81. They all sound like Saxon records to me. But anyway, listen, Leave It to the Kid was his most popular record, and I've got a clip of it here. Do you want to hear a bit of Leave It to the Kid?
Go on then.
Wild woman, gonna tame ya.
So there you go. Leave It to the Kid.
He should have stuck at jumping over buses.
Yeah, right. I've got a little bit of info on his private life here. 3 marriages.
Yeah.
First marriage to Debbie Ash, who is the sister of Leslie Ash. Debbie Ash was also a dancer and an actress. But you may remember Leslie Ash was in, do you remember Men Behaving Badly?
Yep.
Yeah.
She's the original trap out.
That's right, yeah. He had 1 child with Debbie Ash, but I couldn't find any dates for the marriage and divorce, but I know that they did separate and divorce. His second wife was called Sarah Carr.
They were married in 1983.
Were they? Who was that to? To Debbie Ash?
Debbie Ash, and they had 1 child, a girl called Candle.
Candle, interesting name. Second marriage I've got down here, Pigpen, Sarah Carr, waitress from Stringfellows, the nightclub.
Yes.
Again, they had another child. You don't have a name on that child, do you?
I do. They were married in 1994, and they had a son called Jack.
Right. And then finally, he married an old flame of his that he'd met something like 20-odd years earlier, called Samantha Curley. They were married between 2007 and 2012. She was a model. And I think Gremlin will probably have some more to tell us about Samantha Curley when we come to his portion of the Eddie Kidd story. So that's my research comes to an end there. I'm going to hand over to Gremlin now.
They had a son as well.
Oh, so he's had 3 children in total then?
Yep, that was Callum.
Right, excellent. What have you got for us then, Gremlin?
He had an accident in 1996. There we go. That's all done for me. No. Seriously, one thing you failed to mention is he didn't get a UK motorbike licence until 1995.
Yep.
That's true. Yeah, did you know he had over 12,000 jumps during his stunt career? 12,000.
Yeah.
Sorry, carry on.
I was just saying, in August the 6th, 1996, Eddie Kidd was involved in a serious motorcycle accident while performing at the Bulldog Bash. held at Longmartin Airfield near Stratford upon Avon.
And that is that's the Hells Angels rally.
Yeah,
the Bulldog
and in
Bash,
comparison to some of his previous stunts, the jump Kidd made that day was relatively minor, comprising a jump of approximately 49 feet across a drag strip. The relatively short landing area beyond the drag strip consisted of an uphill incline leading to the edge of a steep embankment. Although Eddie completed the jump and landed the bike upright on two wheels, his chin struck the petrol tank of his motorcycle and he was knocked unconscious. As a result, he was unable to prevent himself and his bike from continuing up and over the 6-meter embankment edge. He sustained serious head and pelvic injuries in the resulting fall. After the accident, doctors told Kidd's parents that it was possible he could end up in a coma for up to 10 years. However, he regained consciousness within 3 months of the accident, but was left paralysed and with brain damage. So, since that unfortunate, horrific accident, but that goes to show, doesn't it, if you have a full face helmet on, if it had come down, did he have a full face or would it have been a...
He had a full face motocross style helmet on.
But what does that have? What chin protect?
Well, it's in the front of your chin, but not underneath.
Yeah.
But he came down with such force. You can see it on YouTube. He slammed his head into the petrol tank on a real hard landing. But like a trooper, he stayed on the bike, didn't he? He held on and rode it up the hill, half concussed, I guess, not partially knocked out. If he had fallen off the bike at that point, he probably would have been okay. Yeah, but he held on and went over. If it
had been Evel Knievel, he'd have survived, wouldn't he? Because he never landed very well.
Yeah, true.
It was the most stupid jump you've ever done.
Yeah. So Kidd appeared in an episode of Russell Brand's 2002 TV documentary series Brand to talk about his life after the accident. Kidd took control of a motorcycle again when he formally opened the Beyond Boundaries Live 2007 exhibition at Sandown's Park, Esher, on June the 29th, 2007. On the 17th of July 2012, he carried the Olympic torch during its relay through Lewes in East Sussex. On the 17th of April 2011, Kidd started the 2011 London Marathon, ditching his wheelchair at the start and walking the rest of the way, stating it would take 4 weeks to complete and that it was his greatest stunt yet. On the 6th of June, he completed it. He also said he would compete in another marathon in 2 years' time. So I don't know what happened with that one. Now, as Jakob previously mentioned, he was married to model Samantha Curley. However, in 2013, she was convicted of assaulting Eddie Kidd. The court heard that she tried to throttle him, slapped him on the face and chest and kicked him. She was sentenced to prison for 5 months and a restraining order was issued against her. There we go.
Sad outcome to that.
He wasn't very big, was he?
No, he was 5'1", according to what I found out. He's tiny.
Yeah. Now, I've been looking around and trying to find out other bits about him, and in December the 8th, 2018, there was an article in the Daily Mirror that said motorbike stunt legend Eddie Kidd appeals for a Stephen Hawking-style voice box. Do we know if he ever got one?
When he did the Top Gear show, which is only a couple of years ago, I think, then he didn't have one then.
Right.
That was with Paddy McGuinness, wasn't it?
Yeah, because he has a carer and that bloke looks after him, I think, full time.
And did you know that the guy that looks after him, that carer, he was his bike tech when he did the jumping stuff?
Yeah.
That's nice, isn't it? So that guy's been with him for years.
Yeah, and he whatever he says, everyone else can't understand, but he instantly knows what he's saying.
So has his speech deteriorated? Because early on in his after his accident, I remember seeing footage of him saying to the camera, "I'll never ride a bike again, and it breaks my heart." And you could understand clearly what he was saying. Yeah, right. So I'm wondering if he's deteriorated.
Yeah, I think literally is unaudible unless you know what he's saying, as in his carer knows type thing. But I don't think anybody else could.
Oh dear.
Tell. The Paddy McGuinness one really shows it, and I don't think he can do anything for himself, particularly now. I don't think he can use his arms are out. He can't eat, feed, wash, clothe.
Oh dear.
I think
what a terrible ending to an amazing life.
Yeah.
I mean, not that that sounds like he's dead. He's not. There's still life in the old boy.
Yeah, definitely.
But you know, it's tragic that such a guy full of life and adventure and excitement, you know, ends up like that. It's awful.
Yeah, very sad.
The last thrill was the end thrill, wasn't it, for him, unfortunately?
What did you make of the that jump, Pigpen? Because I had the feeling you were going to say something about that bad accident he had.
Yeah, when you look at it, the whole jump itself was a recipe for disaster. You know, you never jump onto an uphill face. That's, you know, going back to motocross, the last thing you ever wanted to do was either land on the uphill or case it, which is landing on the edge of the jump.
Right.
You either land on the flat at the top or you make the landing on the downside.
Yeah.
You know, the mechanic guy and everything had said, do not do the jump. It's ridiculous. It's a stupid jump, but he didn't want to.
He didn't want to let people down, did he?
He said he could do this jump for him, blah, blah, blah. And yeah, I think that just the way the jump was set up was
all wrong.
Yeah, you just look back and it would have been, I'm not landing a jump on the face of an uphill.
And it's like you said, it wasn't even that big of a jump, was it? Compared to some of the jumps he'd done.
Yeah, no, it was always a recipe for disaster, the way it was going to be. You're just landing into a brick wall almost. So unfortunately.
But as far as the daredevil sort of thing goes, he definitely held his own against all the American competition, didn't he?
Yeah. Well, there were two of his bikes up for sale not long ago. I can't find the price out though. I don't know where they were hoping to make about 35,000 on them.
Is he running out of money?
Well, no.
Can't be cheap.
When you look into him, he's worth about 5 million. So I don't know what it was for, but yeah, he was selling the CR500, what he jumped the Great Wall of China on.
Yeah.
And then he was selling the Honda XR500, which he had the accident on.
Right. Mind you, I suppose, you know, what's the point in keeping a couple of bikes you can't ride, just collecting dust? May as well give them to someone that can do something with them.
But yeah, because he's also got a foundation, hasn't he?
Oh, has he raised money for a particular charity, something to do with brain injuries, I would imagine?
So the Eddie Kidd Foundation. He got his OBE for raising £100,000 for children with leukemia.
Excellent.
Because there was a funny story on that, I think. He got the OBE off Prince Charles.
Yeah.
And when he received it, his reply was, "Cheers, big ears."
He didn't. Brilliant.
Good man.
Cheers, big ears.
And we're back into segment 3 of the show. And yes, you guessed it. It's time for... Email Corner. Yes, Email Corner. This is the part of the show where we reply to listeners' emails. So first of all, I've got a couple of quick shout-out, guys. First of all, on Facebook, I want to say hello to Chip, the VP of Widow Sons Cheshire. Chip's got a new gaming group on Facebook called Solomon Gaming, so go and check that out. And on Reddit, these are funny usernames, but somebody called, I think it's PyUV or Peruv. He's a new listener and he has subscribed on YouTube. So thank you very much, Peruvi, whatever your name is. Also on Reddit, Gyra Jockey is a British mason that lives in Canada and has started listening to the show. So fraternal greetings to you, Gyra Jockey, and thank you for listening. Right, who's got an email?
I have. And it says, hey there, can you boys tell me anything about the Faro rally that Prep School was talking about in the recent episode? And what did he mean when he said that UGLA won't endorse us and that's all the best from Ant? Well, Ant, what I can tell you is that Faro has one of the biggest motorcycle meetings in Europe. And this year, the Faro Bike Festival is from the 20th to the 23rd of July. And it's Faro, F-A-R-O, which is on the south coast of Portugal. And I think that's the airport that people would fly into to go to the Algarve. And for 4 days, thousands of motorbikes, beer, concerts, exhibitions, and street entertainments are the ingredients of what is considered one of the largest and best biker concentrations in Europe. Every year in July, bikers from all over Europe travel to Faro.
Ah, right.
So
it sounds like a European version of Sturgis, that type of thing,
yes, it does. So hopefully that's answered the first part of that question. Now, Pigpen, would you like to talk through the second one, which was when he said that UGLE won't endorse us? What did he mean?
Well, I'm going to say I don't know the trueness behind why they won't, but I think it's because we are not officially recognised by Ugle
Yep.
as a lodge. We are a fraternity of brothers.
An association rather than a
Yeah. We're not a degree. We're not a side order. We are Masonic bikers.
Yeah, a group of Masons. To be fair, it's not that they won't endorse us. It seems that they won't endorse any Masonic associations. It's not just they're not singling us out.
Yeah, the big lads out there who play golf as Masonic golfers, and we don't come under their banner. They are happy for us to be what we are, and they sort of support us in what we are and do.
But, and we're in the museum at Grand Lodge.
Yeah, there's our patches in there. Unlike the golf, there isn't one.
Anyway, right. Who's got an email? Pigpen, you must have an email, dear.
I do. Dear Ridecast, I have a couple of questions about things mentioned in the last episode. First of all, what is a knife and fork mason? And secondly, what is the meaning of Mother Lodge? Thanks, guys. Keep biking. And that is from Tasmin. So, knife and fork mason.
Knife and fork mason.
Yeah.
That's what Gremlin is.
Yeah, there's always there's a few meanings for knife and fork masons in one sense.
There's one only.
Well,
There's one only. There is the brother that never makes it to the actual ceremony in the temple. He just goes straight to the festive board for his food and his drink.
there is that. There's also the...
What's the other one? Come on.
Sometimes you get the mason who doesn't want to do anything, don't want to go on the ladder, don't want to progress.
No, that's not nice.
Doesn't want to help anything.
No. It is those that just turn up to eat.
And then you've got the people like you who are a knife and fork mason who climb to the top of the tree. You've got no interest anymore. It's just grub time.
That's not true. I am a very active member of my lodges.
So that's a knife and fork mason. What
Yes.
was the second part? Mother Lodge, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Technically, your mother lodge is the first lodge that you join. That is where you started your journey of masonry. So normally to have a mother lodge in this meaning is because people join more than one.
Yeah.
So Gremlin's mother lodge
It's Harlow.
Harlow, but he's also the master of
Lassels, rhymes with tassels, and treasurer of the Widow's Son's Lodge. But my mother lodge is Harlow 4404.
Yeah, so it's normally the one you join first, where you're educated at, and that's your mother lodge.
Yeah.
Good. Thanks for that, Tasmin. Right, I've got one here for you guys. Dear Ridecast, I want a bit of input from everyone here. Dear Ridecast, I am considering changing my ZX14R, which is the big Kawasaki, for an adventure bike. Having been a sports bike rider for the last 12 years, I have never ridden a bike with a shaft drive, let alone owned one. I know what the pros and cons are on paper, but can you guys give me any reassurance that I would adapt to a bike with a shaft drive? What are your experiences? Cheers, and that's from Dave.
Well, Dave, I think Dave, you can leave this in my very capable hands. You know, being a bike expert for many, many years, you know, I have stripped down that many bikes. I understand your shaft from your other bits, and I'd say go for it, buddy. Just give it a go.
There's only one shaft on your bike, and that's sat on seat. To be fair, I come from sports bikes, chain driven, and I swapped to the cruiser for my sort of to ride out with you girls. And I don't actually notice a difference.
From what?
From a chain drive.
Yeah, shaft drive, chain drive.
Yeah, I went, my first shaft drive bike was the GS, and I loved it. It does have a slightly different feel when you're riding it. It's hard to explain. I think there's maybe a touch more engine braking. Would you agree with that, Pigpen?
Yeah, you don't get this. You don't get the chain slap, but
no, you don't get that. You know, sometimes when you start accelerating, you've got a slight delay as the chain tensions up, which you don't get with the shaft drive. A little bit more engine braking, but the beauty of the shaft drive is the absolute zero maintenance. Really, I mean, there's no adjusting and lubing. Once every 20,000, 30,000 miles, you've got to change the oil in the shaft drive. but they're bulletproof and there's no maintenance. I love a shaft drive. The VTX has got the shaft drive. Me and Pigpen are on shaft drives. What's your trike? Is your trike a shaft drive?
Belt.
It's a belt, is it?
Yeah, it's got a laggy band on it.
Go for the belt. Go for belt driven. Most of the Harleys are belt driven, so that's what I would go for.
God, I'm surprised that's a belt. I would have thought a big, to turn the back end of that bike being, a trike. You would think it would be a shaft drive, wouldn't you?
Actually, I haven't looked. I wouldn't know.
There's only a single shaft on it, and that's on it. So you can't have so many shafts, can it?
Anyway, before this gets out of hand, I would like to thank Dave for his very serious and sensible question, and I hope that we've alleviated some of your fears of buying a shaft drive bike. Who's next?
I've got one I'm convinced it's been sent to the wrong podcast because it starts to Mo, Larry and Curly. So he's got our names wrong to start with. The last episode wasn't terrible. You had some good guests on the show. Here's a suggestion. Why not get regular guests to host the show and you three can take the rest of the year off? And that's the Podjacker. Do you know what, Podjacker? Go yourself.
The Podjacker strikes again.
Hello, Podjacker. Some of us don't hide behind a bloody keyboard. Get your own podcast and stop giving us a hard time.
Keyboard warrior. He's a keyboard
than
warrior.
You could ever do.
You've lit the touch paper under the beast now.
I like the guy. I like his style. I think he's funny.
Well, I think he's funny now, winding him up like this. It's made me laugh all night as this.
Gremlin takes this sort of criticism personally. He doesn't like
agree
it.
with you, Podjacker. We should quit.
Listen, we're back from our fantastic sponsors. We are here through another season. So I would like to thank our brilliant sponsors, Lynx Aftershave.
If anyone would like advertising on the show, if they want their brand, their shop, their cafe mentioning on the podcast, we're very cheap. We're very cheap, and all money we raise goes to charity.
That's after expenses, by the way.
Yeah. But listen, if anyone out there's got any questions they'd like to ask us, please send it. We say this every month. We do get a few. We get a few through now and again. But over 1,000 widow sons in the country. Why aren't you all listening? Most of you are, or some of you are. But tell your friends about the show and get everyone listening. The more listeners we have, we can start generating a little bit more money for charity. So get on it and send us a message, please. Right. Anyone got anything else in the way of messages, anything they want to say before we wrap up for the night?
Well, I think we have a pig pen pal.
No, we don't. Surely not.
We do.
No.
Mr. Loverman.
Mr. Lover.
Anyway, this is from, and do you know what? It actually preempts that question about the shaft drive because Jenny is 65. She likes Pigpen. She feels that he is the sort of guy that would always have a chain because she can't imagine him only lubing up once every 12,000 miles. She would like to see him lubing up on a regular basis. Now, Jenny, you're getting sort of towards his age group, 65.
Bit young for Pigpen, isn't it?
And he said he will go out and get that lube for you. So, Jenny, keep on lubing.
Yeah, I think you're yanking his chain a bit there, aren't you, Gremlin? Pigpen, what have you got to say, mate? Would you like to reply to what was her name again?
Jenny.
Jenny, what have you got to say to Jenny?
Oh.
Right, guys, I think we're going to wrap up unless anyone has anything else. No, good. Thanks for listening, everyone. Tune in next month. This has been the opening to season 3. So we're into our 3rd year now of recording the podcast. Thanks for all your support. This is Yaka signing off. Over to you, Gremlin.
And it's goodbye from him.
And it's goodbye from me.
Goodbye, everyone. Catch you next month.
Next month.